Oh, hi, and welcome in to another episode of Nick's Practice Club, where I ramble on about things I find important in music and hopefully inspire you to pick up your instrument and practice. If that's the kind of thing you're into, please like and subscribe. If not, please like and subscribe. This is the second episode in my series about the CAGED system. We're going to be sticking in the key of C today, but adding in a couple passing chords and ornamental chords along the way. The usual suspects in major keys would be the 2 and the 4 chord. If you're not sure what I mean by that, first of all, you might want to check out some other videos on basic music theory and understanding the chords in a given key, but I'll give you a quick rundown. Chords are built by skipping every other note in a scale. So here's a C major scale. Scales go in scalar order. They go up every note in the scale. But chords skip every other note. And since there are 7 different notes in a scale, there are 7 possible chords in it. Today we're going to be dealing with the 1 chord, which is root, third, and fifth. So you start at the root of the scale, C, and skip the second note, go to the third, skip the fourth, go to the fifth. The 2 chord is built similarly. We're going to start at the 2 note, skip the third and go to the fourth, skip the fifth and go to the sixth. So it's 2, 4, 6. And the 4 chord is built the same way. We go fourth, sixth, eighth. Eighth is the octave, so it's actually going back to the root. The octave is the 8th note of the scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. When we get there, we can just start the scale over from it. 8th note. Octave, octave, 8th note. So in our major scale, we have 7 possible chord roots. We're only dealing with 3 of them today. The 1, the 2, and the 4. The 2 and the 4 chord are typical passing and ornamental chords because there's not much objectionable about them. As we're going through the key, certain chords will sound more distant than the 1 chord, say. The most distant from the 1 chord would be the 5 chord. And the reason it's so distant and difficult to work with is it contains the 7th note of the scale, which clashes with the root. Anytime you have a note that's a half step or 1 fret away from an important note, it's going to clash with it. And 2 and 4 chords don't have that note in them, and they're actually closely related themselves. The 2 chord is built by going through the 2, 4, and 6 of the scale. The 4 chord is 4, 6, octave, so they share 2 notes, 2, 4, 6, 8. In fact, if you go 2, 4, 6, and octave, that is a 2 minor 7 chord. So there you go. The 2nd chord of a key is also minor. Why is it minor? Because it sounds minor. It has a sad overall sound to it. The 1 chord in the key of C, C major, is happy. The 4 chord is F major, happy. The 2 chord is a darker sounding minor chord. I didn't make it minor, the scale made it minor. And as you go and learn theory, you will realize that the only major chords in a given key are the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord. That's probably why there are so many songs that contain 1, 4, and 5 progressions. But getting back to the chords that we're talking about today, we have our 1 chord, our 2 chord, and our 4 chord. As I'm going through a key, if I just goof around with just a C, and in the key of C, the 2 chord is D minor. So if you know your major C chord and you know a traditional D minor chord, it's kind of one of those awkward chords that I didn't get good at for longer than I'd like to admit. But if you go back and forth between those chords, it's kind of a good way to just hang out in the one chord. You go into that two chord temporarily and moving back to the one chord without going very far or introducing any notes that are very objectionable. The four chord is the same. If you're goofing around with the C chord, you can go back and forth between those chords without much trouble. Even if the background is just hanging out in the one, you can go to either of those chords and have fun with it. In this case, I'm kind of using them just ornamentally as a way to extend the one chord, to hang out in the key of C and not really go anywhere, do anything, just kind of staying at home, which is our one chord in any given key. In a major key, it's going to be a major chord. In a minor key, it's going to be a minor chord. But I'll get to that in another episode. So let's talk about this first diagram you see here, which is the C shape to 2 diagram. We're going to be dealing with C chords in this case, the C shape of the C chord. And the 2 chord in our case is D minor. The notes in that are D, F, and A, and you can see similarly to the C chord, which is all C's, E's, and G's, the D chord, the D minor chord, is D's, F's, and A's all over the fretboard in useful positions in this diagram. The low notes, we're not going to talk a ton about the low positions because they're not all that useful, in my opinion anyway. They're low, they're muddy sounding. In certain textures they can work, but if you're in a full band setting, middle C on the guitar, as it would relate to a piano, is actually this C, first fret on the B string. The guitar is mainly a bass instrument. A lot of the guitar is in the bass clef. So the notes down in this region on the E and the A strings, I don't mess around with them that much in kind of soloing or noodling textures, goofing around. I'm generally going to be sticking to the high 4 strings, but I'll go through the low notes quickly here and then we'll spend more time on the high notes. You can see that the G and C of the C chord, this is our beautiful C/G chord here. Those 2 notes on the 3rd fret are in the C chord, and I can just slide up 2 frets. Just slide up 2 frets. And that's a fun way of noodling around if you're in the key of C. So I got my C chord here. It's kind of cool. You can find a way to use that. Getting into the low 3 strings, we would be dealing with C, G, and E, 3rd, 2nd fret, and moving up to 5th, 5th, 3rd for that A, D, F. Sounds pretty cool. It'll be muddy in most textures, but you might be able to find a use for that. But let's get to the area that most guitar players are going to be manipulating more than others, which would be generally the 4 high strings. if I start with, let's take the D, G, and B strings. We're going to take those 3 strings of the C chord. So that's 2nd fret, open, 1st fret. On that same set of 3 strings, we have this nice triangle, this upside down, well, this triangle, I think of it as an upside down D shape, but that's me. We have this nice triangle of F, A, and D. Which is a real nice move if you can get your fingers around that. Very useful. The high 3 strings, G, B, and E, also very useful. You can kind of mix and match them. So kind of a classic old soul guitar line would be something like, I'm starting on the high 3 strings with the C chord, then going to the D minor chord here, and then going to the G, B, and E version of the C chord. So going back and forth between them, mind you, I'm not particularly great at this one, but something like this. It sounds like Booker T and the MGs to me, you know, that kind of old-timey soul guitar playing. It's good stuff to know. So let's now talk about the C shape to 4. It's not all that different from the C shape to 2. The main difference is, instead of having the note D in the chords, the C just stays where it is. So we're really only changing between the 1 chord and the 4 chord. One of the notes is the same, and it happens to be the root of the key. So that's kind of convenient, isn't it? So to do a similar thing on, if I just take the low 2 strings, literally all I would do is move 1 note. I'd move my 3rd fret on the E string up to A. It's not quite as dark as moving to the D minor chord. The D minor on those 2 strings, even though I'm not playing the full chord, to me it sounds a little more cheerful to go to the 4 major chord than the 2 minor chord. A little more dark and brooding there, whereas if I go to the C shape to 4 chord, sounds a little brighter to me. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking with it. Similarly to the other chords and shapes we're dealing with, most of the work we're going to be doing is on the high 4 strings. So let's take a look at what that would look like. Now, if you've played guitar and know the beginner F chord, that's what a lot of this fun noodling around in this position is going to deal with. And you'll notice that the C is half red and half black because it stays the same between the chords. If we are dealing with the D, G, and B strings, we have our C shape that we used previously. And moving to the F shape, my pointer finger is going to stay where it was, and these fingers are going to move to FAC, this nice diagonal shape here. Well, contrast that with the C shape to 2, which is a minor chord, and that's going to sound a little bit darker. So here's the 2 chord. Back to our major chord. Happier and brighter. In the grand scheme of things, they're more or less interchangeable. You get to decide which you like more and which fits the song better. But let's go. I can talk about the high 3 strings as well. G, B, and E. Works a charm there as well. And if you'll notice, this might be getting a little too deep. Don't want to blow any minds too severely today. But that diagonal shape, that's the same shape as an E-shaped bar chord or an E-shaped chord in the CAGED system. That's based on this F bar chord right here. It's those 3 notes of them. So we are using the CAGED system in a different chord system. I lied that we weren't, but we are briefly jumping to another chord when we're doing these ornaments here. And if you're playing a chord somewhere on the guitar, you're generally going to be using part of the CAGED system. So there will be more of that to come in future videos. But for now, you can use them interchangeably. You can use the 2 and the 4 chord more or less interchangeably, and nobody's going to know the difference except you, but or the music nerd in the audience, who will appreciate your extensive knowledge of manipulating 2 and 4 chords for your noodling pleasure. Let's jump up to the G shape, shall we? Oh, notice that I missed a shape, didn't I? I didn't talk about the A-shaped C chord. We have our C chord, C shape. In the CAGED system, we then jump to an A shape, then we jump to a G shape. But I'm not going to bother with the A shape today because it has these 3 notes in it. On the 5th fret, the G, C, and E, on the 5th fret, they are shared between the A shape and the G shape. And the G shape is just kind of a little easier to noodle around with and have fun with. So I'm going to focus most of our attention on this shape. It doesn't mean that you can't do it from the A-shaped C chord. So here's the C chord from the 3rd fret, rooted from the 3rd fret. I can just jump up to a D minor bar chord. If I want to, or what would be an F chord to use from, well, I would jump down to it, or, oh, it'd be a D-shaped F chord. Ew. So I guess that's why I don't like using the A shape that much. You know, that I'm playing that D shape bar chord all right today, but not one of my favorites. So I am going to stampede past the A-shaped bar chord, the A-shaped C chord, and jump up to the G shape. Because again, it uses those same 3 notes there on the 5th fret, on the D, G, and B strings. So when we're dealing with the low notes of it, It's pretty. It would sound great on a solo guitar. I don't manipulate those very often myself, so I'm kind of slow and clumsy with them. But should you desire, go knock yourself out and get really good at those low 3 strings. I'm going to be focusing now on the G, C, and E on the 5th fret and talking about the ornaments that we can do that are quite easy and probably the most common that I do. I'll seek out this shape in any chord that I'm on so I can use these licks. So hopefully I won't screw these up too severely today. We'll see. So here are the high 4 strings of our G-shaped C chord. I'm adding that high note with my pinky here. And you'll notice that if I go on those same 4 strings, I'll actually be lifting my pinky up. My pointer finger will already be on the 5th fret for that A note, that high A on the E string. And creating this D minor bar chord shape here with the remaining 3 notes. That's nice. That's nice and accessible to most players. So that's an ornament you might look into exploring in the early going. Using just those notes that on that 3-note bar there, extremely effective. I'm not going to yell from the audience if you use those 3. You should have used your pinky on the 8th fret there for that high C. I don't care. You can use any bit of that you want. But that is where a lot of you can get a lot of mileage out of that lick right there. Let's bring in now the 4 chord shape to it. I'm going to stick on this group of strings, and as you'll see from the 4-shape diagram, the C right in the middle of those 3 red notes doesn't change as we go to the F chord. And that's just a beautiful chord change, isn't it? That's from the 5th fret on the D, G, and B strings. I'm adding that black A and F from the diagram above it. That's one of the most beautiful things you can do on a guitar, and I didn't figure that out myself. Hendrix used that. I mean, he wasn't the first to figure those things out, but he certainly got a lot of mileage out of manipulating chords in beautiful ways and using these ornamental chords to augment the, harmony staying the same, and that lick is basically, as I'm playing, I have no idea what key it's actually in. That certainly makes it a lot more interesting, doesn't it? How does that relate to the D minor chord? Pretty similarly, we're just, so when I go from these 3 notes to the D minor, I'm using all 3 of these fingers. If I'm going to go to the F chord, I'm just going to use my 3rd and 2nd finger on the D and B strings. I actually said that right. If I add the C, the high C into it, notice that in the G shape to 4 diagram, it stays the same between the C chord and the F chord that we're moving to. So you can just leave your pinky down. Ain't that pretty? It's so nice. Let's next move up to the E shape. We'll start with the E shape to 2. And, you know, this diagram's looking pretty ugly because it's got those hollow notes, the F down there on the low E string, and then an F and an A on the A and D strings. Those are options. They're correct notes. They're in the D minor chord. So if you want to do something slicker than just the red and the black notes, which would be, if I'm just going to take the low 3 notes of the, starting on the 8th fret, I've got a C, a G, and a C. That's our 3-note power chord, our super power chord. You can just slide that up for the D chord. But you know, Bach wouldn't like that. That's not good voice leading. So those other Fs and As that I threw in there are to give you other options for more interesting voice leading. That doesn't mean that it's easy. Let's go with, okay, the C power chord is going to stay the same, but then I'm going to go with this. Again, not my favorite way to play a D minor triad or any minor triad. But I think that just sounds kind of slicker than... That's just me. If I want to use that highest F on the 13th fret, starting from my C power chord again. It's kind of cool. Kind of a cool manipulation that you can do if you are so inclined. So those are options, but again, I generally stick to the higher 4 strings on the guitar or pick a group of 3 that I can actually work well with and stick to those. So let's do that, shall we? So in our E-shaped bar chord, the high 4 notes is this nice root position triad from starting from C on the 10th fret here. Sliding up to the 2 chord is actually kind of a slick move here. My ring finger is going to go up to the 12th fret, and my pointer finger is just going to bar across the 10th fret. I think that's fun. I like that change. So I use it often. The high 3 strings as well. Just it's a really nice and convenient way of moving up and down. And so on. Good stuff that happens there. Similarly, when we move to the E shape to 4 chord or the E shape to F chord, we have options on the low strings. And again, the C is always going to stay where it was in these C to F chord changes. So a lower, slicker sounding change that would be something like... What is the higher one that I have there? How the heck would I use that? Well, first of all, I don't, so that's why I don't know how to use it that easily, but that would be something like... With a little practice, that actually sounds kind of cool. Maybe I should look into getting better at that. But the money notes, again, are going to be the high 4 strings. We've got our high C chord shape, kind of falling out of tune here. I'm going to tune this up in a second. But I don't even bother keeping, like, I don't even worry about my pointer finger on the high E string there. I just play those 3 in a row, the C, F, and A that are on the 10th fret. Because it's easier than playing all 4 of these. Let's see. I can't even do it that well because I don't do it. So that's why I can't do it that well. The money notes are really the diagonals. So most of my licks that I'm going to have fun with are just going to use those 3 strings, the D, G, and B strings. That's where the fun is for me. Doing that. The only difference would be to get to the D minor chord, you have to slide up to get that D note in there. Whereas this C note stays where it was going to the F chord. So I bar that with my ring finger. And that's nice and easy for me. Let's look into this next monster diagram here. Oh gosh, what's going on here? Well, the red notes are all C chords, and the black notes are all D chords. So this is how you can use those and move all the way up the fretboard. All right. Truth be told, as you've seen me fumble through several of these shapes and manipulations, I don't practice this like, you know, in its entirety all the time. I probably should. I'd be better if I did. But this is a way that you can actually move up and down the entire fretboard with a passing chord in between each version of the caged chords. Oh, and did you notice that I missed the D shape? Yeah, I sure did. I missed the D shape. But the D shape, as you might recall from the last video, is actually basically the C shape from the other side, from the higher notes instead of the lower notes. The triangle that's in a D chord is actually a bit of a C chord, a bit of a C shape. So I skipped the A shape and I skipped the D shape chords in the previous discussion because those notes are contained in other shapes that are generally easier to manipulate. In the case of the A chord, those 3 notes are actually in the G shape chord and easier to manipulate. In the D shaped C chord, well, that's the same as these 3 notes down here. So I mess with those more so than trying to do something from up here on the D. What are you going to do? It's just a mess. So that's why I skipped the D shape as well as the A shape. At any rate, this chart shows you starting from C, and notice that I only worried about the high 4 strings on this one because the shapes are actually possible to play. There's our high 4 strings of a plain old C chord from the bottom position. Then we have this nice movable minor chord shape. The next group of red notes is this G shape up here. You might just see that G, C, those red. I'm also including the C up on the 8th fret in that to complete the G shape, but you don't have to. Just use those 3 notes. Doesn't have to always be complete. Then our D minor shape above that is right here. Then I move up to my E-shaped C chord, and my D minor is up here, and my major C shape chord up here. That's a full octave higher than this one. So let's see if I can go through that any faster. Isn't that pretty? And does it work backwards? Oh, you betcha. As you can see, I don't do that very often, but it works. It's pretty awesome. So get better than me at that, would you? Thank you. Let's talk about the passing chords with the C chords with passing 4 chords or Fs in between them. Our C shapes are all going to be the same from the CAGED system. Then the F chord, then our C chord, then our F chord, then the C chord, then the F chord, then our high C chord. Let's see if I can do that backwards. That F to C thing I do a lot more, so I can actually do it. All right, so lots of fun to be had with that, and I encourage you to explore and get better than myself at it. Now, why don't I noodle around with these with a backing track that I made, which is very weird, but life's too short to mess around with normal music. Don't you agree? And let's take a listen here. So this is all in the key of C. Oh, and I will be releasing it as another video like I did with the last one with this backing track. It kind of implies some movement to the 4 and 2 region in it, so I made it with a little purpose in mind. Let's go, I'm going to start at the bottom and use the C shape to the 2 chord and the 4 chord, just messing around with this. So we'll start with the 2 chord. A 4 chord. It's nice and bright. Jumped up to the G shape. there's a 2 chord. Up to the E shape. There's 4. I'm using 4s and 2s there. It all works. How about going down? So there you have it. Lots of fun to be had. Just noodling around with chords that are kind of near the chords that you learned in the last video. And I encourage you to learn them better than I have. You know, as you can see, there are some shapes that I'm more comfortable with than others, and you will find those for yourself. That's how you develop your style. And it happens after a while. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you might have found it informative, perhaps entertaining, perhaps it put you to sleep. Either way, I'm thrilled that you stopped by Nick's Practice Club. If you liked what you saw, please like and subscribe. If not, please like and subscribe. And I'll see you on the next episode of Nick's Practice Club, where we are going to discuss using the CAGED system with other chords. I bid you adieu. Have a good one, would you? Okay.